Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the franchise guide.
I hear people complain is that the idea of semi-absentee ownership, where they're keeping their job and then they're running the business on the side. And I said there's a couple components there. Obviously, the franchisor has to allow that, but people are hiring managers that they've never owned the business. They're hiring managers, but they're not managing the manager. There's no oversight. So they're assuming the manager is doing what they need to do, but they're not checking in. They're not doing the weekly in-person meetings or calls and stuff like that. And if they are, like I did with my business, and a mistake I made many, many moons ago, 20 years ago, was I bottlenecked the business. So the manager, every big decision had to get approved by me. Well, who the heck was I to approve it when my manager had more experience in years I was alive at the time? Yeah. So I became a bottleneck. So the big part is finding a franchisor that will support and allow part-time semi-absentee ownership. But on the flip side, when you bring that person on, maybe they have some underlying equity, some phantom equity, so they have some skin in the game. They're getting a cut of some of the profits, but you're also managing and setting the expectation. This is what I need you to do. These are the decisions I need you to make. These are the hours I'm available, because if you have a job, obviously, and you can't talk in the hours of 9 to 2, 9 to 3, or even 9 to 5, they know when to contact you and what decisions you can make. So yeah. I believe it's both. It's the right person and expectation, and finding the right franchise that would support that type of ownership.
And just for obviously for your listeners, they know your background, but you owned a cleaning company. Right. What can you just give the background real quick, just for my audience?
Yeah, we had, commercial building maintenance, commercial cleaning. I ran the business full time to really scale that business. And then after that first year, brought on that manager. It was an operations manager, general manager. I forget what the actual title was, but I was so tight to the business. I touched every part of the business. I had to finalize every decision. So I had brought a manager, and by the way, my background was on Wall Street, and we owned the restaurants. I had no experience in that industry whatsoever. Yeah. So I brought an experienced person to the table, a GM with 20 plus years experience in that business. But yet I had to okay all his decisions to the point where, he wasn't able to do his job. It became kind of a bottleneck. So I was running it semi-absentee, but not allowing the manager to do their job, on a daily basis. So it was an interesting business. I learned a lot. I learned that you can't be the expert in all areas, and that you need to hire people that are better than you in certain areas, at social media, at marketing, at sales. So I learned a lot in that business, and I do a lot of learning. So I try to bring that experience to the table when helping people to find a franchise.
It's interesting. What you did though is you got in the business, you learned it, and you grew it. When I think of my definition of semi-absentee, first of all, it's a hockey stick, right? And so when you start a business, right, your revenue is the lowest, you work the most, it's the worst time. But as you grow the business, the revenue goes up, and then your time goes down.
Right.
But this idea that you're not going to work in the business and the revenue is going to go up, I've never experienced that in a business. And I think that you have to be involved. Like, example, I'm not as involved in the day-to-day of Voda as I was even 6 months ago.
Right.
It took time to get there. And my definition of semi-absentee isn't that now I'm going on the beach drinking Mai Tais and hanging out. If I'm not in the office on a Monday through Friday, then I'm out doing something to generate revenue or recruit people. Now, sometimes that might mean going out to play a round of tennis and Friday afternoon.
Networking.
With a property manager, plumber, a consultant, a potential teammate. That is the job of the business owner. But I always thought of semi-absentee means like you're not in the day-to-day, so you can go out there and be what we call the mayor of the town. Not semi-absentee meaning I just park my money in it. It just happened.
I think you're missing one variable that really matters in this conversation. And I would say it's experience. For example, my kid that was here, if I have to get her ready to come here and read, I can do that in half an hour. If her dad had to do it, she might be here at like 5 p.m. So I think like right now, yeah, you had to definitely they're like kids, like businesses are like babies. You kind of got to be there the first year. But if you had to do another home service brand the next time, and you did another thing that was like similar to Voda, you would be semi-absentee pretty quick. So I think with the franchisee comes from a space where like they have a lot of experience to leverage, and this is just like a copy paste thing for them. They're able to step back really quickly and seamlessly and have that manager model. But if this is something that's brand new and you're completely agreeing to it, yeah, it's going to take more time.
That's a great point. It's not.
That is a good point.
It's not like black and white. It
Right.
depends on your background. I mean, the way I look at it is like, let's say you owned 3 Orange Theories, and I owned 3 Orange Theories, and you brought on a great GM that was a GM of another Orange
Right.
Theory. You gave them a profit share, and not 5% or 2%, but 20% of the business. And you met with them, weekly to hold them accountable and celebrate their wins. You weren't bipolar with your emotions.
Right.
You didn't start getting in the way of them. And then sometimes you're in the way, sometimes you're not. Maybe you went to the gym twice a week with them and worked out. So you had an actual relationship. And then I, didn't do that, didn't give them a profit interest, didn't hold them accountable, didn't be a cheerleader, didn't have a scorecard, was moody with them. Sometimes I'm the boss, sometimes I'm not. Who do you think would end up working more hours? Me, right? Because I was a bad manager.
Right.
Is that Orange Theory or is that the manager? So to your point, it's the skill, the background. So I think that's the challenge is like, I think people sometimes overestimate though, because they think to themselves, well, I managed people my whole life. Well, you managed a college educated worker, not a blue collar. Nothing wrong with blue collar.
Right.
It's just it's a different, in my case, we're not in home service, it's a different person.
There is something really to be said about, I think it's a lot easier when you're managing a team that you built. You like all those people, you hired them. And if you don't like them, you could just let them go. Where if you're working for someone else, you have to manage those people, whether they're qualified or not. Like they got thrown onto your team and then you're struggling. So I think I do love the freedom aspect of that. But yeah, you're right. Just have to throw that in there.
Well, that's a good point though. But here's the other thing, like most franchise owners and operators in general, that's the biggest challenge they have is like they have someone on their team. First of all, they want to check the box. I hear it all the time.
Right.
I got to get a GM for training, so I just need to check the box. It's not a box to check. The most important thing is
Right.
hiring the right person. But then when they're not the right person, they give them way too many chances before they let them go. Like I've never, let me rephrase, after years of being beat up, I refuse to keep a teammate for 2 reasons. One, it happens all the time. Oh no, they're going to sabotage my business somehow. If I'm thinking that's the only reason I'm keeping them, they're going.
Right.
And I'll deal with the sabotage if God forbid it happens, which usually does. Or what will I do without them? If I ever feel this mindset, obviously I have people that I feel like, what would I do without them? I would hate to lose them. That's a different story. But more like I don't like working with this person, but I also don't. What would I do without them? They have to go.
Right.
It's like, and that's the number one time people are afraid to do it. What I found, it's a little crazy, but when you have someone doing a job that you feel like, what am I going to do without them? You actually let them go because the pain of letting them go will actually cause you to solve it and the doors will open. Whereas if you just hold on to them, you're going to prolong the inevitable.
I like that. You got to talk to other business owners. Sometimes you get caught in yourself and your thoughts. So I agree with that. I've had similar experiences. So I'll leave it at that. But yes, I completely agree.
Craziest part is you think you're being compassionate.
Right.
And actually good leadership is that person that's in the wrong seat, usually,
Mhm.
they know it.
I'm just not passionate.
Yeah.
What it is with
They're
me.
no, but they're bringing those problems home. Their spouse is feeling it. Their
Right.
kids are feeling it. Nobody wakes up every day saying, I hope I could screw up work today. I hope I can make
Right.
my boss unhappy. And when they're in the wrong seat, that's what keeps happening. And so you're doing them a service, getting them out respectfully so they can go into what's something, a better seat.
Yeah, I agree with
Usually.
that.
And
No,
before
for
you get to
sure.
that, have a conversation out of the office, right? Not beating them up like, why did you do this? But we had issues with managers over the years, and you have a conversation. You go out for a round of golf, or I'm not a golfer, but you do your thing, tennis or whatever sport it is, and you have a conversation. Then the conversation gets going. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the business. It's personal stuff. Maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe something, they got some bad news, maybe a family member being sick or something like that. And just something like that. And all they needed was a little bit of time off. And that's all they needed, but they felt bad asking. So, you treat, it's a family. I look at every business as a family, and you treat everyone. Everyone has their, good days and bad days. But I think you take them out of the environment, you have a conversation with them. And I think that alone will go a long way. And sometimes together you decide, maybe we need to part ways, or I just need to get my stuff in order because of all the personal stuff I have on my plate. So I think those meetings, and sometimes they turned out great. Sometimes they turned into, yeah, we both mutually agree we have to part ways, and that's okay as well.
Yeah.
Saves a lot of headaches down the road.
Have any crazy stories? That's the juicy stuff that I want to hear.
The crazy. I don't think I have any crazy stories. And we're running out of time. No, I'm just kidding.
Crazy stories with like teammates, employees.
So we're like in the franchise
Mm.
space, like with candidates. I have so many people that are out of their mind for sure. Like I get people that are like, we really just try to make sure that we match people to the right brands. It's really being efficient and effective with the brands that we're presenting them. Like imagine if you were my real estate agent and I was like, just show me everything of Zillow.
Right.
I want to see the whole Zillow. Like
Yeah.
that's what people do with us. Like we want to see every single brand. No, like you're not gonna. That's not every single brand is not for you.
Sure.
Like like
It'll
could
probably be
go look
sold by the
online.
time you finish your due diligence.
Yeah.
You're looking at 1,000 companies. Everything's going to be sold.
I would say
So you have no budget. You're looking at something like
Yeah.
a $5 million build out is okay for you.
For the right opportunity,
yeah,
for the right
yeah.
opportunity, we have a partner, unlimited funds.
Oh, and that's the worst. Like business partners, that's the most expensive way to borrow money. I always tell people like you pay a franchise a royalty, but your partner you're paying like a huge chunk, and then when you sell it, you're paying they get 50%.
I think business partner only makes sense in 3 situations. One, you truly need money, you don't
Right.
have access to your own or lending. That can happen sometimes, and they provide capital. 2, they have a completely different skill set than you,
Right.
completely different. And that makes sense. Like my business partner, Zach, like his skill set and mine are so opposite that it works out great because he's great at what he's great at, and I'm great at what I'm great at. And here's another thing I've learned. He likes what he does, and I like what I do.
Right.
None of us are like from day one, like I travel a lot. It looks a lot more glamorous than it is. People think I'm just that's what my superpower is networking,
Right.
connecting with people. And Zach doesn't, he likes that, but he doesn't want to do it as much as I do. And doesn't mean that I'm not okay in ops or like ops, but I don't want to do it the way that he does, where he likes it. You see what I'm saying? It's like, that's a great partnership. So it's either money, they have a skill set that you don't
I
have.
love that. Yeah.
Or the third would be they have an audience that you don't have.
Right.
And so, if I have a business partner and they're, for example, they've been in restoration, they know all the property managers and all the plumbers, and they're going to bring a book of business, that's worth giving equity to. Partnership. Sometimes.
Like George Foreman Grill, like you didn't design that.
Yeah, it's interesting. My crazy story, two for me. My one pet peeve is when people say, I want to make $500,000 a year and I don't want to work a lot of hours. And say, well, what do you make now? Well, I make 200 a year. And I work 80 hours a week.
That's even more.
Right. Well, how about you work 80 hours a week for yourself and you try to make, some money doing it that way? Why does it have to be like double the income and half the time your first? And that's your way of telling yourself you're not gonna do it unless you set this crazy thing that's not reality. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I have the other side. People that are like, I have a really good job, and then I'm looking at their questionnaire, and I'm like, these people don't make a lot of money, but for them, it's a lot, and they're like, they think that they can't ever get there again, like it's gonna be so hard. Sometimes it's just fear that holds you back, and I'm like, wow, if they only knew that there was so much potential for them to leave, especially if you see that other people that do the same thing are making way more than them,
Right.
like they're underpaid for their role, and you're like, you should not be working there.
Yeah, but those people that are in those roles, like one of the things I'll tell you, like the more verticals that I get a chance to be in rooms with people further than me or very successful. I haven't met one yet. I don't mean this arrogantly, but I haven't met one yet that's brilliant. They took the risk, they went for it. I think you'd be surprised, like people that I haven't met them, but I think at the top too, the more you meet them, you realize, wait a minute, this person just acted fast, took a risk, believed in themselves, betted on themselves. They got lucky a little bit.
Yeah.
They worked hard. I was just listening to, and obviously this is a crazy example, but like, have you ever listened to Steve Schwartzman's book, founder of Blackstone?
No.
It's a great book. He started Blackstone, obviously huge company, and obviously he's smart. And he went to Ivy League school. But you listen to the book, and he pretty much says, like, I'm a regular guy. I'm not even really that good at math. He's the largest private equity firm. And the more you listen to him, what he has is he has charisma. Because he's sharp, but he's warm. And I think his skill is just he recruited great people.
Right.
And so when I see these franchise owners like the Flynn Group, they own 2,000 locations, the largest franchisee in the world. I guarantee if you sat down with the whatever his name, Flynn, I'm not saying he's not brilliant, but I think you'd be surprised that most of that brilliance came from the experiences that they had. raw intel.
Absolutely. They're master delegators. They have the right people in the right positions. Absolutely.
But they learned that through the time.
Yes, correct.
Through the experience. They didn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't become that. They became that by doing it.
Oh,
So
you just remind me of a story. Do you ever hear this Lord Timothy Dexter?
Mm.
This guy was illiterate and he became the wealthiest guy. Hold on. In the late 1700s, the wealthy elite of Newburyport, Massachusetts had a problem. His name was Timothy Dexter and he simply wouldn't fail. Like all the rich socialites were really jealous of him. I don't know if you want to hear the whole story, but they tried to trick him into investing in things. They tricked him into investing in.
Couldn't read the contract, right?
Oh, he saw them investing in local currency, and it was at the time it was continental currency, paper money that was rapidly becoming worthless. He decided he decided this must be what rich people did. But when the wealthy were cautiously buying small amounts, Dexter went all in with the enthusiasm of a Labrador chasing a squirrel. Buying worthless money is good, he reasoned. Then buying lots of worthless money is better. And then everyone was like laughing at him. So he was basically the like everyone was like the fool, right? He
Top.
couldn't
Right.
read.
Yeah, right.
He married someone rich. She died, so he ended up being loaded, right? And then Alexander Hamilton, the first Secretary of the Treasury, enacted his debt assumption plan, and then all that money became worth stuff. It was like now it was worth a lot. And he became the richest guy. But like back to back, they would come up with like ridiculous things like whale bones. All of a sudden, corsets became in
Yeah,
style.
yeah.
And he had all the whale
Right.
bones. And then they convinced him to collect stray cats. Like because he was so dumb,
Mhm.
they would trick him into doing this stuff. So now he had a house with stray cats, like 1,000 of them, right? And then all of a sudden he heard there was like a rat infestations on all the ships coming into the port in Massachusetts. So now he sold all of these cats. He made tons of money. Like everything they
go,
tried
yeah.
to trick him into doing.
Worked out.
Resourcefulness.
He was just like the lucky. They couldn't like make this. This guy ended up having like this huge mansion. He had a statue of himself like 15 feet tall, and all these other statues. He couldn't read. He wrote a book actually towards the end of his life, which was nonsense, and he was literate. It had no punctuation, so everyone made fun of him. Then he rewrote
Best-selling book.
He rewrote.
Right.
It was a best-selling book. People used to have parties and read it. Then everyone was making fun of him. So then he wrote like a second edition with punctuation, but it was all the punctuation was at the end, and it was like 3 pages of exclamation points, periods, commas.
By
like,
out
he
of
put them all at
curiosity,
the
let
end.
me-
Meanwhile, he knew what he was doing because
Right.
that got the attention.
Right.
He knew how to put the periods.
Yeah, all at
yeah.
the back of the book, and he was like, "Here, so you can just use them as you wish."
My
Oh, wow.
favorite,
That's funny.
not as funny as that story, but just as we wrap up, like one of my favorite, it's Henry Ford. You ever heard this? You ever heard Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah.
Henry
Big fan.
Ford, basically, the news company called him ignorant. So he considered this slander that they called him ignorant. So he sued the newspaper. And so when he was in court, the newspaper company's lawyer was like basically went up on stage or whatever, just opposed him and said, who's the second president? You didn't know. What's the, all these different facts that Henry Ford knew none of them. And so they were making their proving their point that he was, he was ignorant. And then at one point he stopped him. He said, "Excuse me, at any given moment, I can press a button at my desk and have the smartest people at my disposal come in and answer any of these ridiculous questions. None of them relate to building the horseless motor car. And so if it doesn't pertain to that, I don't waste my time learning about it. I only obsess over building this life-changing technology." And immediately people realize how he's brilliant. He just didn't waste his time on things that didn't move his mission.
Right.
And I think that the point is like the franchise owners, like it's like you don't have to be this brilliant, and maybe you are smart, but like you just go after it. I hate to make it simple, but making money in business, usually, especially as a home service business, it's just going out there and making it happen and connecting and being the mayor of the town. Most of the other things don't matter. They really don't. As long as you, of course, give a good service and you hire great people, but people overcomplicate the business.
To follow the system.
Follow
I
the
mean,
system.
like 1 in 6 franchise owners are coming out of the military. Why? Because they follow the system. They're told exactly what to do. There's different positions, and they execute. Simple as that. They don't start thinking, I bought a McDonald's, so I'm going to start adding and changing the menu. No, you execute on the system. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, you're dealing with staff leaving and all that other stuff, but execute on the system, and that's it. Focus on that instead of thinking about how you're going to change the menu.
Oh my God! Did you see the 2025 Economic Financial Report for franchising, the IFA one? you're in a good spot in home services. It's
Yeah.
blow up this year. They're
Oh, yeah.
predicting. Home
Especially,
services is the place to be. And they're
yeah,
saying food's going to come back.
yeah, food will
Uh,
come back. Home services, restoration, absolutely. But you know,
Personal services. Yeah, personal service on top of that list
yeah.
too.
But one other thing on that is like, how about this? In the game, like if we played a sport, right, and we sat here in the huddle, and you said, Dan, you're going to go left. You're the coach. You said, Dan, you're going to go left. Natalie, you're going to go right. And then you're going to both cross, right? In the middle of the game, I don't say, nah, I'm going to go the other way, right? I do the play that I was told to do.
Right.
And then in the locker room or over a beer after the game, I might say, hey, what if next time we tried the other way?
Right.
But in other words, if as a franchise owner, bring your ideas all you want. But during the day, during the game, stick to the plan
Right.
until you've, mastered that. And that's the other thing, like learn the rules before you break the rules.
Right.
I would say as a franchise owner, do everything the exact way the franchise owner it tells you to do it. And then once you're a top producer, then you could start to change things. But
It's simple. Follow the process, and that's it. That's really it. I think we overcomplicate. People in general can tend to overcomplicate.
You've heard the candid advice and reality checks. Are you ready to take the franchise leap with your eyes wide open? Start your journey informed. Choose the right path at ggthefranchiseguide.com.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.